Ambassador Sarah Chun sat at the massive round table in the Galactic Council chambers. Around her, dozens of alien species filled the air with clicks, growls, and musical tones that the translation devices turned into words. She had been listening to the same complaints for 3 hours straight. "The humans are too aggressive," complained Veltar Prime Minister Zexhane, his blue skin shimmering under the chamber lights. His people looked like tall, elegant elves with 4 arms and crystal-like eyes. "They expand too quickly. They ask too many questions. They do not respect our ancient ways." Sarah kept her face calm, even though her hands wanted to shake with anger. For 18 months, she had sat in these meetings. 18 months of trying to join the Galactic Council as equal partners. 18 months of being told that humans were too young, too wild, too different. Krex. War leader Thokmar slammed his massive fist on the table. His species looked like walking tanks with thick armor plating and 6 legs. "Humans fight dirty," he growled. "They use tricks instead of honor. They do not follow proper war rules." Sarah almost laughed. The Krex had attacked 3 human colonies before learning the humans fought back in ways they never expected. Humans have used asteroid fields as weapons, turned enemy ships against each other with computer viruses, and won battles by making the Krex think they were losing when they were actually winning. "Council Speaker Dexver," Sarah said, turning to the tall, thin alien who led the meetings. His species, the Yoth, had been running the council for over 1,000 years. "We have answered these same concerns many times. Humans are willing to follow council laws. We are willing to share our technology. We only ask to be treated as equals." Dexver's 3 eyes blinked slowly. His skin was gray like old metal, and when he spoke, his voice sounded like wind through dead leaves. "Humans are children playing with fire," he said. "You have only been in space for 300 years. Some of us have been traveling the stars for 10,000 years. You must accept your place." "What place is that?" Sarah asked. "Limited military ships. No more than 50 war vessels," said Zexhane. "All new technology must be shared with the Council immediately. All disputes with Council species must be judged by Council law, not human law. You must also stop expanding," added Thokmar. "No new colonies without Council permission. No contact with species outside Council space." Sarah felt something cold settle in her stomach. These were not the terms they had discussed for 18 months. These were not partnership terms. These were surrender terms. Her aide, Lieutenant Commander Marcus Rodriguez, leaned over to whisper in her ear. "Ambassador, Earth is waiting for your signal." Sarah looked around the chamber at the 47 alien species watching her. She had tried so hard to make them understand. Humans did not want to conquer anyone. They did not want to destroy ancient traditions. They just wanted to be part of something bigger than themselves. But these aliens saw humans as dangerous children who needed to be controlled. They saw human creativity as chaos. They saw human hope as foolishness. They saw human willingness to change as a threat to their old ways. "We have prepared the final terms," Dexver announced. He gestured, and a holographic document appeared in the air above the table. "Humans will accept these conditions or talks will end." Sarah read the document quickly. It was worse than she thought. Humans would become junior members of the Council with no voting rights. Human military would be cut by 90%. Human colonies would be governed by Council administrators. Human scientists would work under alien supervision. The chamber fell silent. Everyone was waiting for her answer. Sarah had been a diplomat for 20 years. She had negotiated trade deals with peaceful species and ceasefires with hostile ones. She had always found a way to make things work. But sometimes, she realized, walking away was the only choice that let you keep your dignity. She stood up slowly. Marcus and the other human diplomats looked surprised. Speaker Dexfer, Sarah said, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber. Prime Minister Zexheim, War Leader Thokmar, distinguished delegates. She looked around the room, meeting as many alien eyes as she could. For 18 months, humanity has negotiated in good faith. We have compromised. We have shown patience. We have answered every concern and addressed every fear. The chamber was completely quiet now. But what you offer today is not membership. It is not partnership. It is surrender. Sarah picked up her datapad and files. Humanity did not cross the darkness between stars to become servants. We came seeking friends and allies. We hope to contribute to galactic civilization as equals. Ambassador Chun, Dexfer said, his voice sharp with warning. Do not make threats you cannot back up. Sarah smiled sadly. This is not a threat, Speaker. This is a farewell. The talks are concluded. Earth hereby withdraws its application for council membership. The chamber exploded into noise. Aliens jumped to their feet, chattering and screeching in dozens of languages. The translation system struggled to keep up. You cannot simply leave, shouted Zexheim. The council will impose sanctions. We will cut all trade. You will do what you think is best, Sarah interrupted. As will we. She looked around the chamber one last time. We thank you for your educational insights into galactic diplomacy. Perhaps in the future, when the Council is ready to treat humanity as an equal partner rather than a problem to be solved, we can speak again. Sarah turned and walked toward the exit. Marcus and the rest of the human delegation followed her. Behind them, the alien voices grew louder and more angry dotted the door. Sarah paused and looked back. Oh, and Speaker Dexfer? You might want to review how much of your daily lives depends on human involvement. We will be withdrawing all of our people from council space within the next 72 hours. Good day. The door closed behind them, cutting off the chaos they left behind in the corridor. Marcus caught up with her. Ambassador, are you sure about this? Sarah activated her secure communicator. President Martinez? This is Chun. Execute Operation Exodus. Bring everyone home. The news spread across human space faster than the fastest ships could travel. From the core worlds to the frontier colonies, every human settlement received the same message from President Martinez. Pack up. We're going home. Captain Elena Vasquez stood on the bridge of the cargo ship, New Horizons, watching the planet Veltaros grow smaller on her rear display. For 5 years, she had been running supplies between human and Veltar colonies. She knew every docking master on 12 worlds, had eaten dinner with their families, had helped solve problems that no one else could figure out. Now she was leaving, and she was not coming back. Captain, her first officer said, we're getting messages from the surface. They want to know why we're leaving so suddenly. Elena sighed. Tell them the truth, Marcus. The council made their choice. Now we're making ours. Across council space, the same scene played out hundreds of times. Human doctors packed up their medical equipment and left alien hospitals. Human engineers disconnected the computer systems they had installed and improved. Human traders canceled contracts and loaded their ships with goods that would never be delivered. The withdrawal was not angry or rushed. It was calm, professional, and complete. That was what made it so frightening to watch. Dr. James Wu finished checking the medical readings on his young patient. The Veltar child had been dying from a rare genetic condition. Using human medical techniques, Wu had developed a treatment that saved the boy's life. It was the kind of miracle that human doctors performed every day across council space. Dr. Wu, the child's father said, his forearms reaching out desperately. Please, you cannot leave. My son needs your care. Wu gently closed his medical bag. Your son is stable now. The treatment I gave him will keep him healthy for many years. I have left all my research notes with the hospital. Veltar doctors are smart. They will learn to do what I did. But why must you go? What did we do wrong? Wu looked at the worried father. Diplomat Veltar were known for their pride and their belief that they were better than younger species. But this father was just a person who loved his child. You did nothing wrong, Wu said softly. Your people are good people. But your leaders, they see humans as dangerous children who need to be controlled. They offered us a choice: accept their control or leave. So we are leaving. But this is madness. Humans solve problems that we cannot solve. You bring new ideas, new hope. I know, Wu said. Maybe someday your leaders will remember that. On the trade station orbiting Krex Prime, human merchant Anna Kowalski was selling her last cargo to confused alien buyers. For 3 years, she had run the most efficient supply route in the sector. She could get emergency medical supplies to disaster zones in half the time it took anyone else. She knew tricks for storing cargo that squeezed 20% more goods into the same space. This makes no sense, grumbled Krex Dock Master Vakron. Your cargo routes are perfect. Your delivery times are impossible to beat. Why would humans abandon profitable business? Anna sealed the last shipping container. Because some things matter more than profit, she said. Like respect. Like being treated as equals instead of problems to be solved. But the economy will suffer. Trade routes will fail. Then, maybe the council should have thought about that before they decided we were too dangerous to be real partners. Anna's ship lifted off from the station. Behind her, Vakron stared at shipping schedules that would now take twice as long to complete. Across Krex space, other dockmasters were discovering the same problem. On the research station at Kepler 442, human scientists deleted their files and packed their equipment. For 8 years, they had been working with Yoth researchers to study dark energy. The humans brought wild creativity to the project, suggesting experiments that seemed impossible, but somehow worked. Dr. Sarah Kim encrypted her latest research data. Months of work on dark energy manipulation that could revolutionize space travel. The Yoth scientists begged her to leave the data behind. This research belongs to all sentient life, insisted Dr. Zexthal. You cannot take it with you. This research was done by human minds using human methods, Kim replied. If the council wanted to share knowledge, they should have offered partnership instead of surrender terms. As human ships departed from council space, they left behind more than just empty offices and labs. They left behind a growing sense of unease among the alien species who had taken human contributions for granted. President Martinez stood in the Oval Office on Earth, reading reports from around the galaxy. Every human ship, every human facility, every human citizen was coming home. The operation was ahead of schedule and running perfectly. Madam President, her aide said, we're receiving thousands of messages from council space. Some are angry threats from government officials, but many are personal appeals from ordinary citizens asking us to stay. Martinez nodded sadly. I expected that. The people understand what we brought to their worlds. It's their leaders who think they can do everything better without us. There are also reports of problems already starting. Supply chains breaking down, research projects stopped, medical facilities struggling without human techniques. It's only been 48 hours, Martinez said. Wait until they realize how much of their daily lives depended on human innovation. On the frontier world of New Damascus, the last human transport ship loaded the final evacuees. Colony Administrator David Chun watched through the ship's windows as the Veltar settlement grew smaller. For 10 years, humans and Veltar had worked together on this world. They had shared technology, culture, and friendship. The Veltar colonists stood at the spaceport, some of them crying. They held up signs asking humans to stay. Children who had grown up playing with human children pressed their faces against the windows. "This is wrong," said Dr. Lerotan, the Veltar colony leader. She had requested permission to come aboard the human ship for a final goodbye. "Our species work well together. We solve problems together. We make each other stronger." Chum nodded. "We thought so too. That's why we wanted to join the council as equals. But our leaders on the homeworld fear human influence. They see your adaptability as chaos. They see your willingness to change as a threat to our traditions. And now you see what happens when fear wins." Chum said the ship broke orbit and headed for the jump point that would take it back to human space. Behind it, the mixed colony began to struggle with problems that human engineers had been quietly solving for years. Power systems started failing. Water purification became less efficient. The careful balance that had made the colony successful began to break down. Across the galaxy, the Council was about to learn a hard lesson about taking valuable allies for granted. 3 months after the humans left, the first real crisis hit the galaxy. It started on a Krex mining world called Doom's Edge, where workers began falling sick with a strange disease. The symptoms were terrible: burning fever, bleeding from the eyes, and then death within days. Krex doctors had never seen anything like it. The disease spread from world to world faster than their ships could carry warnings. Within weeks, 12 Krex colonies were fighting for survival. War leader Thotmar stood in the emergency command center, watching red dots spread across the star map. Each dot was a world where his people were dying. "How many dead?" he asked his medical officer. 15 million, war leader. "And the number grows every day." Thotmar's armored hands clenched into fists. "What about a cure? Our best scientists have been working for weeks. They cannot understand this disease. It changes too quickly. Every time they think they have found a solution, it becomes something else." Thotmar stared at the map. He remembered something that made his stomach feel sick. 3 years ago, human doctors had been studying diseases just like this one. They had been working on Krex worlds, learning about Krex biology, creating treatments for conditions that no one else understood. "Where are the humans who used to work in our hospitals?" he asked quietly. "Gone, war leader. All humans left council space 3 months ago. The ones who were studying these diseases. They took all their research with them." Thotmar closed his eyes. The humans might have had a cure ready by now. Their strange ability to think in ways that no other species could understand had solved impossible medical problems before. But the humans were gone, and 16 million of his people were dead because of it. On the trade routes between council worlds, other problems were growing. Captain Yethkal of the Veltar freighter Starwind stared at his navigation computer in confusion. The route from Veltaros to the Yoth homeworld should have taken 8 days. He had been traveling for 12 days, and he was still lost. "Navigation officer," he called. "Explain this failure." His officer's forearms moved nervously over the controls. "Captain, the hyperspace currents have shifted. The old routes do not work anymore." "Nonsense. Hyperspace currents are stable. They do not change, but they have changed, Captain. Look at the readings." Yethkal looked at the data and felt confused. His officer was right. The hyperspace currents had shifted in ways that made no sense according to Veltar science. The route that had worked for decades was now completely wrong. What he did not know was that humans had been quietly mapping these currents for years. Human navigators had a strange ability to feel their way through hyperspace, finding paths that computers said were impossible. They had been sharing these routes with everyone, making trade faster and cheaper across the galaxy. Now the humans were gone, and no one remembered that the routes they all used had been discovered by human intuition, not alien science. All across Council space, similar problems were growing. Supply ships got lost. Emergency medical supplies arrived weeks late because no one knew the fast routes anymore. Pirates, who had been afraid of human revenge for years, grew bold and began attacking merchant vessels. On Nexus Prime, the capital world of the Galactic Council, economic analysts worked day and night trying to understand what was happening. Trade was down 30%. Scientific research had slowed to a crawl. Medical facilities were reporting shortages of treatments that humans had developed. Chief Economic Advisor Velanara presented her report to Council Speaker Dexvar. "The situation is worse than we thought, Speaker. Human involvement in our economy was much deeper than anyone realized." Dexvar's three eyes focused on her coldly. "Explain. Humans were not just traders and doctors, Speaker. They were innovators. 30% of new technology in Council space came from human research or human improvements to existing technology. They found solutions to problems that our people had given up on. Impossible. Humans are a young species. How could they contribute so much?" Velanara activated a holographic display. "Look at the data, Speaker. In the last decade, humans solved 14 major conflicts between Council species. They found diplomatic solutions that no one else thought of. They prevented wars that would have cost millions of lives." Dexvar stared at the display. The information was undeniable, but it made him angry rather than worried. Humans are gone. We will solve these problems ourselves, as we did for thousands of years before they arrived. But, Speaker, the problems are getting worse. The Krex plague spread to 3 more worlds. Trade routes are failing across 17 sectors. And we are receiving reports of something else. What? The Rimworlds Coalition is meeting with human representatives. Species that never joined the Council are forming new alliances with Earth. They are sharing technology with humans instead of with us. Dexvar stood up quickly. "What do you mean?" "The Zephyrians, the Plasma Dancers, the Rock Walkers. 12. Species that we tried to recruit for centuries are joining human alliance groups instead of applying to join the Council." This was worse news than Dexvar had expected. The Council's power came from being the center of galactic civilization. If species were choosing human partnerships over Council membership, it meant humans were offering something that the Council was not. "What are the humans offering them?" he asked. "Partnership without surrender, Speaker. Equal cooperation instead of junior membership. The freedom to keep their own cultures while sharing in common goals." Dexvar felt a cold fear growing in his chest. The Council system was based on older, wiser species guiding younger ones. If the younger species chose human-style equality instead, the whole system would fall apart. "Send intelligence agents to monitor human activities," he ordered. "I want to know everything they are doing." 2 weeks later, the intelligence reports arrived. They were terrifying. Humans were not struggling without the Council. They were thriving. Human technology was advancing faster than ever. Human colonies were growing rapidly. Human alliances with non-Council species were creating a new power block in the galaxy. Worse yet, the humans were happy. Reports showed human colonies celebrating their independence from Council oversight. Human scientists were making breakthroughs that had been impossible under Council regulations. Human explorers were discovering new worlds and new species far beyond Council territory. Dexvar realized that the Council had made a terrible mistake. They had thought that humans needed the Council to survive. Instead, it was becoming clear that the Council needed humans to prosper. The galaxy was changing, and the Galactic Council was being left behind. In his private office, Dexvar stared out at the stars and wondered if his pride had doomed the Council to irrelevance. The humans had asked for partnership and been offered servitude. Now they were showing the galaxy what real partnership looked like. And more species were choosing the human way every day. 1 year after the humans left, The galaxy exploded into chaos. It started in the Outer Rim, where ancient mining robots on a forgotten world suddenly came to life. These machines had been sleeping for centuries, but something woke them up. They began building new robots, smarter ones, deadlier ones. Within days, they had taken control of 3 star systems. The synthetic war had begun. Admiral Kexter of the Veltar fleet watched his ships burn in space. The synthetic machines fought unlike any enemy he had ever faced. They learned from every battle, adapted to every strategy, and never made the same mistake twice. Admiral, his communications officer, called out over the sound of alarms. The machines are using our own tactics against us. Every move we make, they counter perfectly. Kexter gritted his teeth. How is that possible? Unknown, sir. It's as if they can predict our strategies before we use them. What the Admiral didn't know was that humans had spent years studying synthetic intelligence on dozens of worlds. They had learned how to fight these machines, how to confuse their learning systems, how to use their own intelligence against them. But the humans were gone, and their knowledge had left with them. The synthetic machines spread like a virus through space. They captured ships, converted planets into factory worlds, and built armies that grew stronger every day. The Council species tried everything they knew, but nothing worked. KREX, war leader Thokmar led a massive fleet against the synthetic forces at the Battle of Iron Gate. His warriors fought bravely, but the machines simply absorbed every attack and sent it back stronger. In 6 hours, Thokmar lost half his fleet. This is impossible, he roared over the battle communications. These machines learn faster than we can adapt. His tactical officer's voice was filled with fear. War leader, the machines are broadcasting a message. They say they remember the human techniques that used to stop them. They learned from fighting humans years ago. But now the humans are gone, so nothing can stop them. Thokmar felt sick. The humans had been the galaxy's protection against synthetic intelligence, and no one had realized it. But the synthetic war was only the beginning. Deep in space, ancient alien artifacts called the Harbinger derelicts began to stir. These massive ships had been floating dead in space for millions of years. No one knew who built them or why they had stopped working. Human scientists had been studying them carefully, learning how to keep them safely dormant. Now, with no humans to maintain the careful balance, the derelicts were waking up. Dr. Yethmirin, the galaxy's leading expert on ancient technology, stood on the observation deck of the research station near Derelict 7. Through the window, he could see lights beginning to glow along the enormous alien ship. Dr. Yethmirin, his assistant, called urgently. The derelict's power readings are increasing. Whatever is happening, it's accelerating. This cannot be happening, Yethmirin said. The derelicts have been stable for decades. Sir, the human research team used to visit this station every month. They performed some kind of maintenance routine that kept the derelicts sleeping, but we never learned what they did. The records are encrypted with human codes that we cannot break. Yethmirin felt panic rising in his chest. Contact Earth immediately. Tell them we need their help. Sir, we tried. Earth's response was very polite. They said that Council space matters are not their concern anymore. The derelicts' lights grew brighter. Across the galaxy, 17 more derelicts began showing the same signs of awakening. Each one was the size of a moon and carried weapons that could destroy entire star systems. Council Speaker Dexver called an emergency session. For the first time in Council history, every species leader attended personally instead of sending representatives. The chamber was filled with fear. The situation is critical, Dexver announced. The synthetic machines control 47 star systems and are still expanding. The Harbinger derelicts are showing signs of activation. Our fleets are losing every battle. Prime Minister Zexhane of the Veltar spoke up, his voice shaking. Our scientists estimate that we have perhaps 2 weeks before the first derelict reaches full activation. When that happens, it will sterilize everything within 50 light years. What about the humans? Asked War Leader Thokmar. They knew how to handle both these threats. The chamber fell silent. No one wanted to say what everyone was thinking. Finally, Dexver spoke. Initial contact attempts have been unsuccessful. Earth has declined all requests for assistance. What did we expect? Growled General Vakanth of the Kreks. We told them they were too dangerous to be equals. Now they are letting us face the consequences. The humans are not our enemies, said Dr. Leth Korveth, an elderly Yoth scientist. But we are no longer their responsibility either. Reports came in hourly, each worse than the last. The synthetic machines had captured the industrial world of Forge Prime and were building a fleet of warships. 3 more derelicts had begun powering up. Refugee ships fled from the war zones, carrying stories of entire civilizations being wiped out. Dexver sat in his private office, reading intelligence reports about human space. The humans were thriving. Their new alliance with non-council species was growing stronger every day. Human technology was advancing rapidly. Human colonies were expanding into unexplored regions of space. Most importantly, the humans were safe. The synthetic machines and Harbinger derelicts were only active in council space. The humans had withdrawn far enough to be beyond their reach. They planned this, Dexver realized. The humans had known that their withdrawal would leave the galaxy vulnerable. They had known about the sleeping dangers that only they could control. And they had chosen to protect themselves rather than save the species that had rejected them. His aide entered the office. Speaker, there is news from the front lines. More defeats? Yes, sir. But also something else. We intercepted human communications. They are receiving refugees from the war zones. Non-council species that are fleeing the synthetic advance. The humans are giving them shelter and protection. Dexver felt a strange emotion. The humans were saving anyone who asked for help, even species they had never met before. But they would not help the council species who had treated them badly. Sir, his aide continued, there is something else. A message from the human president. What does it say? It says, the offer of equal partnership remains open. Earth remembers its friends and looks forward to making new ones. Dexver understood. The humans would help, but only if the council was willing to treat them as equals instead of dangerous children. The choice was simple. Swallow their pride and ask for help, or watch galactic civilization collapse. Outside his window, the stars that had once seemed so permanent and safe now looked cold and threatening. Somewhere out there, synthetic machines were building armies, and ancient weapons were waking from million-year sleeps. The galaxy's survival depended on species that the Council had driven away, and time was running out. The message that reached Earth was unlike any in galactic history. It came not from the Council's official channels, but from every single species leader personally. President Martinez stood in the White House Situation Room, watching the holographic display show 47 different alien leaders. Some were proud species that had ruled star empires for millennia. Others were warrior races that had never bowed to anyone. All of them were asking for help. President Martinez, Council Speaker Dexver began, his voice heavy with exhaustion. We come to you not as the Galactic Council, but as people whose worlds are dying. War Leader Thokmar stepped forward. The massive Kreks warrior looked smaller somehow, beaten down by loss. My people are strong fighters, but we cannot fight machines that learn from our every move. 50 billion Kreks have died because we do not know what humans know about synthetic warfare. Prime Minister Zexhane's forearm shook as he spoke. The Harbinger derelicts will activate within days. When they do, 3 of my worlds will be destroyed completely. We need the human techniques that kept them sleeping. President Martinez looked at each face on the screen. A year ago, these same leaders had demanded that humans submit to council control. Now they were begging for help. Why should we help you? She asked quietly. You told us we were too dangerous, too young, too wild to be trusted. You wanted us to surrender our independence. Dexver's 3 eyes closed in pain. Because you are better than we are, he said simply. We let fear and pride cloud our judgment. We saw your differences as threats instead of gifts. We were wrong. Dr. Lyraton, representing the frontier colonies where humans and aliens had lived together peacefully, spoke next. President Martinez, millions of innocent people are dying. Not just council leaders, but farmers, teachers, children who never voted to reject human partnership. Martinez felt her anger soften slightly. She looked at her advisors around the room. Secretary of State Williams nodded slowly. What exactly are you asking for? Martinez said. Help us save the galaxy, Dexver said. In return, we offer something we should have offered a year ago. True partnership. Not council membership with restrictions, but an equal alliance between independent peoples. Martinez stood up and walked to the window. Outside, she could see the lights of Washington, D.C. On a world that was safe, because humans have been smart enough to leave when they were not wanted. The cost of our help is not money or technology, she said finally. The cost is change. If we do this, it will not be the old council giving orders to junior members. It will be a new alliance of equals. We understand, Dexver said. Do you? Because humans will not just solve your immediate problems and then go back to being treated like dangerous children. If we save your worlds, we do it as partners who have an equal voice in how the galaxy is governed. That is what we want, said Prime Minister Zexhane. What we should have wanted from the beginning. Martinez turned back to the screen. Then we'll help. The response was immediate. Within hours, human ships began jumping into council space. But these were not just military vessels. They carried doctors, engineers, scientists, diplomats, and teachers. Dr. James Wu found himself back on a Voltar medical station, working alongside alien doctors to fight the synthetic plague. The Krex virus that had killed millions finally met its match when human adaptive medical techniques combined with Voltar precision surgery. Dr. Wu, said his Voltar colleague Dr. Yethalana, how did you develop this cure so quickly? Wu smiled as he watched their patients recover. Humans think differently about medicine. We see disease as a puzzle to solve, not an enemy to fight. When you treat a virus like an intelligent opponent instead of just a problem, you can predict how it will change and prepare treatments for its next form. This approach saved millions of lives. Why did your people keep this knowledge to themselves when you left? Wu's smile faded. We offered to share everything we knew. Your leaders said we were too chaotic, too unpredictable. They wanted us to work under supervision instead of as partners. That was foolish pride, Dr. Yethalana admitted. We nearly let pride destroy our civilization. On the battlefront against the synthetic machines, Admiral Chun led a combined human-alien fleet using tactics that no one else had imagined. Instead of fighting the machines directly, she used their own learning ability against them. Feed them false information, she ordered her tactical team. Let them think they are learning our patterns, then change completely. Humans are good at being unpredictable. War leader Thokmar watched from his flagship as the synthetic forces fell into chaos. Incredible, he rumbled. They are learning wrong lessons because we are teaching them wrong lessons. Human warfare is about creativity, Admiral Chun explained over the com. We don't just fight harder than our enemies. We fight smarter, stranger, and in ways they never expect. The greatest victory came when human scientists reached the Harbinger derelicts. Dr. Sarah Kim stood in the control room of the research station, her fingers flying over instruments that she had designed years earlier. The key is not to shut them down, she explained to the watching alien scientists. The derelicts are not machines. They're more like sleeping giants. If you try to force them to sleep, they wake up angry. But if you sing them the right lullaby, they rest peacefully. Dr. Yethmiran watched in amazement as the massive alien weapon powered down under Kim's careful guidance. You speak of technology as if it were alive. Human science often treats the universe as if everything has some form of life or intelligence, Kim explained. We don't just study space and matter. We try to understand them, work with them, become friends with them. One by one, the Harbinger derelicts returned to peaceful sleep. The synthetic machines found themselves outmaneuvered by human tactics they could not predict or understand. The plague that had killed millions was cured by human medical approaches that no other species had imagined. 6 months later, representatives from across the galaxy gathered on the neutral world of Haven to sign a new agreement. It was not called the Galactic Council anymore. It was called the Alliance of Free Peoples. Ambassador Sarah Chun, the same woman who had walked out of the council chambers a year earlier, now stood at the signing ceremony. But she was not representing Earth's membership in someone else's organization. She was representing humanity as an equal partner in something new. This alliance is different, she said in her speech to the gathered delegates. No species rules over others. No ancient civilizations guide younger ones. We work together because we choose to, and we respect each other because we are all valuable. Council Speaker Dexver, now simply Representative Dexver, approached her after the ceremony. Ambassador Chun, I owe you an apology. We mistook human youth for weakness, human creativity for chaos, human hope for foolishness. Chun smiled. We all make mistakes, Representative. The important thing is learning from them. What did we learn? That the galaxy is stronger when everyone has a voice. That new ideas are gifts, not threats. And that real strength comes from working together, not from controlling each other. As the ceremony ended, Chun looked out at the mixed crowd of humans and aliens talking, laughing, and planning together. Children from a dozen species played in the gardens outside, inventing games that no single culture could have imagined alone. Dr. Wu found himself surrounded by young alien medical students, all eager to learn human techniques. War leader Thokmar was deep in conversation with human military advisors, developing new strategies that combined Krek's strength with human creativity. Scientists from 20 species worked together on projects that had seemed impossible a year earlier. The galaxy had nearly destroyed itself through fear and pride. But it had found salvation through something uniquely human, the belief that tomorrow could always be better than today, if people were willing to change, grow, and work together. President Martinez's final message to the new alliance was simple. Welcome to universe as humans see it, full of infinite possibilities, endless potential, and friends we haven't met yet. The stars that had once seemed cold and threatening now looked bright with promise. The galaxy was healing, stronger for having learned that true power came not from dominance, but from the wisdom to recognize what you could not afford to lose. And humanity, the species that had once been called too young and too dangerous, was now recognized as the galaxy's greatest gift, the ones who taught everyone else how to hope.